It's Thomas who takes it. Oh, what a goal, Mickey Thomas!
Hi gang, The Joy of Football has a guest this week after an incredible weekend of football. Mickey Thomas, ex-Wrexham, ex-Manchester United, who was at both games for Wrexham's progress.
Ex-Brighton.
Ex-Brighton. And United's dismissal from the FA Cup by Brighton is our guest.
Great.
And we've also got Martin Tyler's letter from the gantry talking about names again, a new name with a disputed pronunciation. Plus we talk about Tottenham. And you went to...
I covered the game between Tottenham and Aston Villa, and it was a game that lived up to the FA Cup. Probably hasn't got all the headlines, although Tottenham losing has, but nothing can trump Macclesfield. For somebody who spent a lot of football life in non-league, I'm delighted for them.
Let's go.
The Joy of Football podcast. With me, Neil Barnett.
And with me, Martin Tyler.
Looks like Xavi! Rooney! Aguero!
The Joy of Football.
Hello. The Joy of Football podcast with Martin Tyler, the greatest commentator in the world, and me, Neil Barnett, in shades this week because I've had eye surgery. So I put my old spy hat on as well. And I even missed the last couple of Chelsea games.
Which means it must be very serious, Neil. And thank you for not missing this today.
On television. Yeah. We have got a guest today.
What a guest.
And what a guest. Mickey Thomas, who played... These are Mickey Thomas's clubs. Wrexham, Manchester United, Everton, Brighton, Stoke, Chelsea, West Bromwich Albion, Derby, Wichita Wings, Shrewsbury, Leeds, Stoke, and Wrexham again. Now, many people will know him as the guy at age 37 who scored the free kick against Arsenal in the FA Cup when Wrexham was a fourth-tier club, not Arsenal out. But most football people should know him as a great Wales international and a great servant of clubs like Manchester United and Chelsea as well.
And someone who never
Wrexham.
stood still on the pitch or off it either. I'm amazed we've got you sitting still for a few minutes here, Mickey.
You've done well, Martin, to keep me here. I'm always going everywhere. 100 mile an hour normally, so yeah.
Well, Mickey was at Wrexham last Friday to see them beat Nottingham Forest and at Manchester United on Sunday. And he's had a great post-playing career in the media and a long time serving MUTV. He saw United lose to Brighton, another of his former clubs. Mickey, let's start with Wrexham. They had 4 years in the second tier of English football in the late 70s and early 80s. And in fact, you were in the team that got them there, but left when they got promoted to join Manchester United. So back in the second tier now for just the second period in their history, what is special about Wrexham Football Club and how much of a tidal wave has it been with the whole USA getting behind them because of Ryan Reynolds and Rob Mac, as we now refer to him, formerly Rob McElhenney?
Yeah, obviously, we're just talking about Wrexham now, and obviously I've been involved a long time as a player in the early days of the second division when we got to that level. But I have to say that what's happening now is unreal. I was there the other night, and Nottingham Forest coming to the racecourse ground, and it's a different level now. They've got so much quality in that squad, so many good players that they can compete in the Premiership even now with the squad they've got. But it's just everything connected with Wrexham. Rob and Ryan have changed the whole concept of the club. It's incredible what they're doing now. It's amazing. And, even me now, when I sat in the stand the other night, I'm thinking, this is unreal. This is unbelievable. But it's not stopping. You talk about, is it a possibility for the Premier League? It is possible. There's no question about that. They're on a good run at this moment in time. And I can see them absolutely getting there. I really can, because I think they've got enough quality in depth to do that.
But I think the speed of it, Mickey, has been so amazing, because the last time, you probably don't remember this, but probably the last time we were in the same football ground together was the racecourse ground when I was assistant manager of Woking, and we were playing Wrexham in the National League. And there was a lot of hullabaloo about new ownership then, but even investments at other clubs, the transformation has been so rapid. What do you think has been the key? It can't just be the money.
No, I think when we look at the manager, Phil Parkinson, what he's done, I mean, that is the most difficult job in football, I believe, because with all the razzmatazz, all the cameras around him and that, he stayed focused. And I've talked to him many times. I spoke to him after the game in the office after the game. Is that I said to him, he's incredible what he's done, but he's a very ruthless man. He knows what he wants. There's been lots of change in personnel with players each season. Once they've done this part and they're not wanted anymore, they've got gone. They've got new ones coming in. And I had the luxury, obviously, having that money as well to go out and buy the quality as well. But he has done something special that I believe at this moment in time, he could be the best manager in all the football leagues, even in the Premier League, what he's done and achieved. Coming from that non-league, I know they say you got this, you got that, but you have to have the right ingredients, the right remedies to say, oh, this is the perfect cake. Yeah, he's doing it. He's done amazing. And Rob and Ryan, that when they're in town, it's a different atmosphere. Everyone's, they're superheroes, aren't they? But what they've done is not just for the football club. They brought the town alive. They give something back that it's alive now, Wrexham. It's not a poor miners' village or whatever, a town. It's blossoming. I think more so the money's involved there.
As someone who was born in Chester, I've got to be very cagey about what I
say. Be careful now, Martin.
But it is special, as I say.
Chester being just the other side of the border between England and Wales.
Look, Mickey and I know where Chester is.
Yeah, I'm talking about people listening and watching.
And they will know as well.
Just going back,
it's a big city, isn't it? Chester's bigger than Wrexham.
Obviously that rivalry was, fantastic. I used to love them. I played them myself, but obviously that's not happening at this moment in time. But Wrexham with that injection of the money and that, and it's a fantastic story. I mean, what happens now is expectations have gone to a different level, and they are reaching them heights as well. So where can they go? I mean, I speak to Neil, and I think the Premier League, it's got to be there for them. What a fitting end it would be to get into the Premier League. Would it be too early? I don't care. If you can get there when you can.
But they must know, Mickey, that it will cost a lot more to be a Premier League club. They've invested. I mean, we know Hollywood is a great money-making machine, and they're top of their trade in that business. But to go into the next step, that's the biggest leap of all on the ladder, isn't it, really? To get from the National League back into the Football League was pretty massive at the time. But to think of, the ground as it is, becoming a Premier League ground, the squad, as you say, I mean, you've got some players who've been in the Premier League. Jay Rodriguez, of course, came on and took a penalty against Forest, didn't they? So are they ready for that? You say you talk to them. Do they realise the mountain that they've still got to climb if this is going to happen this season?
Well, if it did happen, they would certainly realise very, very quickly that this is a different level. This is the ultimate in the Premier League. With the big boys, Manchester United, Liverpool, Chelsea. That's what they want, and that's what they're desperate to get. And I go along with them. Let's get there. It's never too early. If you get an opportunity, you've got to take that opportunity. And whatever comes after that, you have to deal with it. The stand is getting built behind the goal, Neil. I think another 6,000 fans are going to be in the old cup it was called before. So it's like Bournemouth, similarities to Bournemouth. Not great amount of people coming to the ground, but it's a ground that people find it difficult to come and play and try and win as well.
There were 15 years that they spent out of the Football League in the fifth tier, the National League. What was it like in those years there? Because you must have gone there in those years.
Yeah, I went with my great friend, obviously, the late Sir Joey Jones. But no, there was hardly anyone there. 2,000, something 3,000. But the loyalty, 2,000 to 3,000 fans saved that football club because they were in serious situation that they would go out the National League, so they're going to fold. But they got together. Some people sold their houses and that. We couldn't even afford a pint of milk. There's nothing. You couldn't afford a cup of tea in those days. But Woking, that yourself. You have to say that level isn't great, but you have to adapt to it. And Wrexham for 15 years didn't do that. It was a nightmare. Every season, Wrexham are going up the season. With your reputation, that doesn't matter. In that non-league, as you know, Martin, it's a tough league to get out of. If you do it quickly, that's the best way, but Wrexham couldn't do that, and they suffered greatly. And it's been a hard 15 years not for just myself, but for the real football fan of Wrexham Football Club. And now, as it changed, them people like that now in them difficult times in dreamland.
So what do you think made Ryan and Rob invest in Wrexham?
Well, obviously they've done the homework. They got people working on that. But I think the Story is one of the biggest, the oldest clubs in Wales or in the Football League even. I think I spoke to them about my goal. They mentioned my goal. They've seen that, and that obviously given them a little bit more, I think, excitement about coming and maybe get back to those days sort of thing. So, yeah, they're very clever people, but they're very genuine people. They love this project that's happening. I spoke to Ryan the other night. It's something that they love, and they've got real belief that it can happen. And get to the ultimate Premier League.
Mickey, we have to talk about it at some point. Tell us your memories now of the goal all these years later and the significance of it. Because you were a very experienced player then, weren't you? You were very well known, and you were then stepping up to be, Mickey Thomas is taking this. We must have a chance. Did you feel any way? And you were losing in the game at the time, I think, weren't you?
We were 1-0 down, and we get the free kick. And I remember I took a free kick in the week on a Thursday with a 5-yard run-up, and I smashed it. I didn't hit the target, still going around the universe now, but it was probably the best strike I've hit. And when they had the free kick, what happened, Nigel Winterburn and Gordon Davis, the player that played for Wrexham on that day, they're having a little bit of an argument because Winterburn, with me being old, and Gordon is taking a mick out of Gordon. Anyway, so that slowed me down because I was saying to Wayne Phillips, pass me the ball, I'm going to strike it. So when that little bit of an argument developed, it calmed me down. I thought, Thursday, hit that ball really well with a 5-yard run-up. I'm going to try the same process. So I did that, and I struck it, and obviously right into the top right-hand corner. One of the great goalkeepers, David Seaman, barely got a touch of that ball. And the story about the winning goal, because I always mention Steve Watkin never gets a mention. He did score the winning goal, but he believes, like I do, that mine was a winning goal now after all these years. Yeah, but
Mickey, just to stop you there. Neil said before we came to start the podcast, Mickey scored the winning goal. I said, no, he didn't. Steve Watkins got to get a mention.
Exactly, Martin. A lot of people believe I did that, but it's totally unfair to the other 10 players that me and Steve scored the goals. That it was a combination of everything working that day, and I amazed him out a lot because I seen David Seaman before the game and not thinking we were going to win the game. I said, could I have the gloves you wear today for my son? So anyway. We win that game, and as I'm walking down the tunnel, this is a true story, I'm walking down the tunnel and I can see David Seaman by the Wrexham dressing room door, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't believe he's still here. And as I get by him, I go, David, I said, I can't believe he's still here. He said, probably the biggest humiliation and probably the biggest shock in FA Cup history. You're still, he said, Mickey, I promise you the glove to your son. Here they are. He said, they don't work anyway. So, but that was, at 37 years old, going on 90, that was the nice way to go out of my career sort of thing. But, and I can just say this about Arsenal, they were fantastic after that game. They never got the credit they deserved. They came into the dressing room and wished as well, and that never got a real mention in that. But it's one of the great FA Cups, of course. Macclesfield and now just eclipsed that, of course, because that is an incredible achievement against Crystal Palace. But that will live with us, and I think it lives with everyone, that goal and that. And sometimes they get a little bit peed off with it because I don't like keep talking about it because it wasn't just me. It was a combination of everything coming together that day.
But also you played a heck of a lot of other games as well. And
I scored at the goals, Martin, and I scored even better free kicks than that. But obviously they want to talk about that.
Go on, then tell us which ones you remember were better then.
Well, I scored one when Stoke in the top flight with Swansea in the top flight, and we got a free kick 20 yards out, and I've struck it. And it's bounced out that quick that Di Davis only got hold of it on its way out. That's how when it was that powerful, and it was a great goal. But an open play, I've scored some great goals. Probably my best ever goal playing for Stoke against Liverpool, 30-yard strike against Liverpool. But they're gone now. Obviously, I got a little video that someone put on YouTube, so I watched that 300 times a day now, which is good. To remind me, I wasn't a bad goal scorer.
For people who have never been to Wrexham, the town, just paint a picture of it.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's changed now. Everything getting built, hotels, and new bars and pubs and restaurants. So it's completely different from my time as a young boy growing up with Sir Joey Jones. So yeah, it's changed, and it's for the better, of course, because now when you talked at the start of this about what's happened at Wrexham, the transformation that, as Martin quite rightly said, it's been enormous. Is that you're not just getting Wrexham fans now; they're coming from all over the world. They have from Norway, Iceland, Germany, Belgium, and certainly a mass from America. So many people coming from America, Australia the other day. Someone asked me for an autograph the other day from Mexico. That's how bad it's captured the whole world really because of Ryan and Rob.
And strangely, Mickey, that's what we would be talking a few years ago, and probably still, about Manchester United, who've been part of your weekend as well, and maybe some of the ones we're going to Old Trafford are now coming to the racecourse ground.
Without doubt, Martin. When I go there, they always mention Wrexham now. What about Wrexham? It's an amazing story. Even last night, what amazing story it is, and as I said, it's captured the whole universe really. And I know there's a lot, Martin, and you'll probably understand, Neil, is that there's a lot of jealousy as well because people don't like that. They're doing it because of this and that. They wouldn't have a chance if they didn't. But I remember when Man City got taken over, and it was only a matter of time before they won something because of the amount of money they got now. But it's how you use that, what you've got. And, I go back to Phil Parks and, being one of the great managers of all time for me now because what he's achieved. And there's no question, no one would argue with that because what's happened at that club and what he's achieved so far. Amazing.
This is Phil Parkinson, who took Bradford City to the League Cup final, knocked out Aston Villa in the semi-final as well. And I think was manager when they won at Chelsea. Neil will probably not want to remember that, but it was a famous...
he's been a good working manager.
Yeah, and the half on the television, Mickey, you were obviously at the game, but they showed some of the half-time or the 90 minutes team talk before the extra time. And maybe it was half time in extra time, and it was a good old fashioned team talk. There was no data there or anything like that. He was using his own eyes and his own experience to get the best out of his players.
Yeah, what you see that Bradford City getting into the final, got beat obviously in the end there, but he beat Chelsea on the way, Neil, didn't they, as well, to get to that final. But he's a man that, if you look at what they've done, and fair dues to Rob and Ryan, they don't get involved with him. Whatever he wants to do on team affairs or selection, they're not involved with that. Make this clear that he is solely in charge of that football club, the manager, which should be that's the way it should be. So but for me, he's the greatest. I mean, probably everyone would think, oh no, he's had this and that. You still have to do it.
Well, let's move on to Manchester United.
Can I just ask one more question?
Well, of course, Neil. It's your podcast, mate.
Go on, Neil.
There are so many issues at the moment in football with the idea of American venture capitalists wanting to make a profit rather than win trophies. They bought Wrexham for about £2 million, and it's now thought to be worth about £350 million. I don't know how much they've invested along the way and how much they've spent, obviously a lot. But are you absolutely secure that they're in it for winning and not for the profit at the end of the day?
Well, listen, these two guys are very wealthy guys. I mean, they've come into something that, it's been a dream for them, really. And, it's something that from the outside, you just mentioned about the money side, but they're not in it for the money. I know, I can tell by that. I get the feeling that they're desperate, to go long term, and they proved that so far. They're not jumping ship here. They're staying on board for sure. There's no question about that. They're fully committed to Wrexham Football Club. They've showed that the passion and love and what they've done to the club, not just in the football club, but outside that, and help people, that needed that help.
Let's throw it forward to Manchester United now, because that's, I think, when we first met, when I was covering the cup final, and you were running around the hotel full of energy and couldn't wait for the kickoff. And first of all, let's talk about the Manchester United that you played for, and then we'll get on to what you saw with Manchester United in their third round FA Cup tie.
Yeah, I think I've told the story, but I'm going to tell you again. It's something that I went from Wrexham to Manchester United. What a massive step that was. One of the biggest clubs in world football. And obviously social media is now more powerful, but there wasn't that then. But I was still obviously in a situation where I've gone from being, a small-time player to one of the biggest clubs, and now I'm in the spotlight. You get your fan mail goes up, you're on the TV all the time. You're in the newspaper, everyone's reading about you and that. So everything you do, everyone can see that. And it became a pressure thing for me. I played 110 games, 15 goals, but majority of those games I played within myself, I felt intimidated by it all. I didn't feel comfortable. And no one ever knew that while I was at that football club. I found it very difficult at times, because of mental issues. It wasn't identified then. You can imagine me saying to Gordon McQueen, Joe Jordan, I'm too scared. I don't want to go on that pitch and that. But I had that. And I had to keep that within me for a long, long time. Eventually, I left Man United through my own doing, because I wanted to get away. I wanted to get back to being me and being happy. I found it really, really difficult. And people really didn't know that, and the home games, I played my first game at Chelsea and made a goal for Jimmy Gwynn. I played my first home game, 58,000 singing your name, we win that. And then we played Liverpool, and then my legs feel different. I couldn't even lift. I thought that was now I was starting to realise that the pressure was getting to me, sort of thing. I couldn't perform that day. I had a nightmare sort of game and that. And then I get out, go home, and then I never used to drink before. I started having a glass of wine on a Friday so I could play on a Saturday, be more relaxed and that. So, it was a very difficult time that, people in today's football understand that about pressure. So they get looked after. I had no one to confide in. I was on my own. Let me tell you this so you'll have a really good understanding of what it was to me. I go to the training ground, to the cliff in the morning. I would be the first player into that dressing room. I get changed, and then I go into the reserves room dressing room where I would feel comfortable with them type of players. We go out training, and I finish the training, and I go and hide in the sauna. I sit in the sauna till they all gone home. Then I jump in the shower and drive back to North Wales, where I used to live in Rill at the time. So that was my routine. And they said, "Where's Mickey?" Now, I'd be hiding that. I couldn't walk into a dressing room on my own. I really had them type of problems, but who could I tell? No one. I had to keep that within myself. I had some great games for Manchester United along the way. I think when I look back and I didn't do too bad, to be honest. No, when you don't win anything, you don't get real credit. Got to the cup final, lost in dramatic circumstance against Arsenal, finished against Liverpool, one of the great teams of that time, 2 points behind them. So Dave Sexton wasn't that far off. They said it was boring football, but you talk to the players like Lee McCall, they loved Dave Sexton.
Yeah, intriguing. So you were still commuting from North Wales?
I was still.
That must have been quite a commute. I know. I must tell everybody that when Mickey joined Chelsea, he signed a contract with the then chairman saying that he would move closer to the ground than his North Wales home, which I think was about a 4.5 hour drive from the club. And he indeed fulfilled that by moving 3 miles closer to the ground and staying in North Wales, because you are a home boy.
Well, that was it, because we won promotion with Chelsea, never lost a game when I joined them for 21 games, Neil, you remember that. And we won the trophy. And anyway, after the game, the chairman, Mr. Ken Bates, called me into the office and said, you've took the mick out of me. I said, what are you on about? I said, I told you to move closer to London. I said, I have moved closer. He said, yeah, you moved from Colwyn Bay to Rill, 4 miles down the road. So he wasn't happy, but technically I had moved closer, so he couldn't do anything about it and that. But yeah, that was obviously well documented about me and Sir Joey Jones going to Chelsea nearly every day. Sometimes we used to stay on a Friday in the referee's room before a game because we didn't have that type of money to buy a house or buy. We couldn't even afford a garage with the type of money. In today's game, yeah, I could buy 2 houses, but in our era, that wasn't possible. So we used to do that nearly every day of the week. Get up at 5:30 in the morning, get to Harlington at Heathrow Airport, do the training, and finish at 12:30 and drive back home. Yeah, we were well known along the motorways by everyone. Yeah.
And occasionally sleep in the dressing rooms or the kit room.
Yeah, sleeping in. Yeah, we used to do that and that. Yeah. My Chelsea debut is quite a story. My home debut where I scored 2 goals and we beat top of the table Sheffield Wednesday. On the Friday, I was out in the hotel and Jimmy, he passed away now, God bless his soul. The physio came and I had about 3 or 4 pints of Guinness because I used to get energy from that. Anyway, I've gone into the ground and this is a true story. I'm not fit enough to play. It's the only time I have migraine. So I'm saying to the physio, I'm lying on the table, said I can't play, and John Neal's coming in and manager. Is he going to play? And then obviously Norman Meadows, the physio, was working on me, clicking me neck, and that. Eventually, I made that game through Norman Meadows' treatment. So and I ended up scoring 2 goals, and we won the game 3-2 against top of the table side. So yeah, that was my debut. Yeah, a few Guinnesses caused me a massive problem the next day.
Back to Manchester United though, and as it turned out, your period there was more successful than their current period. You've stayed close to the club ever since you've retired. What's gone wrong?
Well, I think obviously when you lose one of the greatest managers of all time in world football, in Sir Alex Ferguson, how do you replace him? And it's become, it's well documented what's happened over the years. There's been quite a change of managers, and it's very, very difficult. I know everyone that's been there. I mean, they all want to be successful, but unfortunately, that hasn't materialised. And it's been they want to get back to winning things, year after year, but they've won a couple of cups and things like that. But the ultimate thing, they want the Premier League title, don't they? And that has been beyond them.
Do you see what you've just described so eloquently, Mickey, about your difficulties of the shirt was a heavy shirt at Manchester United? Do you see that in the current crop of players? And not asking you to name names, but do you think that is still a problem for those who join the club?
Martin, I really believe, I say this all the time. I did Talk Sport the other day. I said, the pressure at that football club, whether you like it or not, the biggest club in the world, without doubt, it is enormous. And you can't get away from the fact when you lose 1 or 2 games, you're on the radar I mentioned earlier in the program, social media is so powerful that can make or break you. And it has a big impact on what chairmen or people that run the football club think. And that's the problem.
And now you saw them lose to another of your old clubs. What were your feelings about that? Sympathy or delight or what?
It's very difficult for a Manchester United fan now to see what's happening. I know, and the new owners obviously they don't want to fail; they want to be successful. But unfortunately, it's not working at this moment in time. Obviously, they're trying their best now. They've got a big decision to make now. Who comes in? Who's it going to be? The next manager. I thought Ruben Amorim was going to be the man to do that. Obviously, they put a lot of belief in that by bringing him to the football club. But as previous managers haven't been able to do it. And I'll go back to pressure, Neil and Martin. It's enormous, and you can't get away from the fact that is a certain problem for that football club. Expectations.
They keep buying big. We're not really, those of us not involved, we're not really certain who's making the decisions over who comes in the post-Ferguson David Gill years. And there has never really seemed to be a good, joined-up handwriting team.
Well, I think, Neil, to answer that question is that what would happen is if you won football games on a regular basis and won trophies, that would be gone. But when you're not doing that, that's when the pressure comes in. That's where speculation, who's managing, who's running the football club, things like that. Everyone from the outside is having an opinion, and it's a very much of a pressure thing put on the people.
Where's it going to go, Mickey? Do you see this constant search for a solution? It can't continue to be produced. They've been producing good people, good managers, but as you say about yourself, the difficulty of harnessing all the pressures that you've mentioned, it can't be impossible. So is it the structure behind the scenes, or is it would Phil Parkinson walk into that job, manage like he managed at Wrexham? Would that be the kind of answer to it, and get rid of all the periphery and sink or swim on your own decisions?
I wouldn't want to say he's going to be leaving Wrexham. Do you think I would say that? No, I mean,
no, should we say the Phil Parkinson type of manager?
Yeah, without doubt, yeah. I mean, listen, Sir Alex Ferguson did that to perfection. He became powerful where he wasn't. He could control the media. He was that sort of manager. He wasn't fazed by that. He could do that, and he got the right players in. We had a couple of players with the Giggs and the Scholes and the Beckham and the Butts and that, and coming to one period of time that was very unreal, really, but that happened. So he's had the basis of a solid foundation of a very good team, but he's added quality all the time, and he probably took the pressure off those players. Don't forget now, we're getting different managers from different parts of the world, and that they probably haven't got a real indication what it's like until they get there. And when they get there, they understand now that this is a different level. This is a complete different where I've come from, and it's very difficult to handle it, because when you're getting pressure from the outside, and you're trying to control it from the inside, it's very, very difficult.
Well, people say, Mickey, it can't happen now because of the complexities of the companies that run the clubs. But if Wrexham do get promoted, and we're talking about 4 or 5 months' time, with a manager who's brought them all the way from the non-league, who will surely be given the chance to manage in the Premier League, which he would thoroughly deserve, but he will want to manage the way he is managing now. Do you think that if Wrexham gets to the Premier League, that will have to change?
Well, the pressure becomes even greater once you get to that level. No question about that. And, you have to still get results. He's done that right from where he's come from, from that lower level of the National League. So it's continued. He's been very, very good. And I said to him, I don't know how he does it, but he does it. And so you're at a different level now, so it's going to be more difficult. Of course it is, but I wouldn't back against him not to succeed. I really wouldn't, because I've seen how he operates. He knows what he wants. He's a very unbelievably special man for Wrexham Football Club.
You were a player who would find it, I think, very easy to succeed in today's game, because you were part winger, part left-sided midfielder. And you could do both jobs, but the Manchester United of all my life virtually has played with 2 wingers and mostly 2 strikers, and it seems as though that DNA that I associate with them has gone. Is it important to bring it back? Because when you were at United, you played on the left wing. That was it, and would it have been Steve Coppell on the right wing in your day?
Yeah, Steve Coppell.
And now, well, under Ruben Amorim, they haven't had wingers; they've had wing backs and number 10.
Yeah.
Do you think that for United to get the supporters behind them and to get some momentum going, they need to play 2 wingers and a brand of football that is at first entertaining?
Well, Neil and Martin, this is what I'm going to say to you. You're both football men. The game has changed so much. everything is completely different from on the pitch to off the pitch now. When you talk about get that DNA, whatever it is, or passion, players are programmed differently these days. It's completely different. They're physically strong. They're athletes and that. It's a different thing now. I never used to know what a man in a hole was. I thought it was someone doing a bloody road or something. I don't know. I don't know all these different things now. Wing back and that. You have to go along with that. And I'm old school like you are both, and it's hard to really grasp it at times. But I get involved a lot, don't I? I see them thinking, you've got to be in that way now. You've got to go that way, the way they train, the way everything's done to perfection, timing and that. We never had a clock when we play. We just get there when we wanted to. That, you know what I mean? It's just completely different. It's more professional. Is it more healthier? I don't know. I love to be into that dressing room. I love to be in the dressing room before a game because, from our area, go out there and just go and win the game and that. Joey Jones used to say about the great Bob Paisley, he wouldn't do any tax, just go out and play the game. But now it's all done on iPads and everything. It's not for me, but that's the way the game's gone, and you've got to go along with the flow.
You watch a lot of it, Mickey, obviously, and you're well in tune with it. When you're watching games now, and I know all players think about when they were playing, even when they're watching, I'll be doing this and doing that. Now the position, you could be these days a left wing back. You could be a right-sided player playing on the right side, coming on your left foot, like so many clubs are doing that now.
Yeah.
Do you think you could have done those jobs with your talent? I'm sure you could have done.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, they play the left now on the right, and But
did you ever play on the right? Did you ever play?
I played a couple of times for Stoke and that, probably too. They played on the right. We played Nottingham Forest, and Stuart Pearson had a reputation of kicking everyone, apparently. So I could look after myself. The Stoke manager, we had one of the greats at the time, Mark Chambers, who was a superstar, cricketer, but not the bravest. So before the game, said Mickey's going to play on the right, sort of Stuart Pearson. I thought, oh my God, So But just go back to what you said about, and very interesting what you said about could we play in today's game. I would like to think all the players I play with could play in today's game. No real physicality now, but to go along with the process as it is in today's game, where you've got to be regimental, you've got to do this and do that. I don't know whether it would have suited me. You know what I mean? You've got to stay here, you can't go here, you've got to do that. I'm not so sure about that. I don't think that's in my locker to do that.
One final question: can Manchester United qualify for the Champions League this season? And it's probably going to be top 5.
Well, they're in a great position. We're not sure in the next few days who's going to take over. We might find out today. But they have a squad of good players, but not really performing to the level that they should be. You can get someone installed to do that. I do like Darren Fletcher, but I'm not sure whether he's going to be in charge in the next few games. But I just think it's something that the players have to do now. I have to look at him and say, listen, I've got to do it. There's 74,000 there last night, really. They want to see better than that, and they deserve better than that. Will Manchester United come again? Yes, they will. When? I do not know that answer.
Mickey Thomas, I love you. You've
Thank
never
you, guys.
gone away.
Thank you.
Lovely to see you in such good health. You've had your health issues.
I'm training now. I've got my arms. I'm only 71. I can still play.
I bet you're still running up and down the stairs like you did at the Selton Park
I still
Hotel
keep.
in
I train every
1979.
day, Martin. I train every day, Martin.
You made my report. I had to do a report into the ITV coverage, and I said, "Well, I got up early, but Mickey Thomas was up even earlier than me." So.
Martin, I was just coming in. I was out.
Mickey Thomas, a great entertainer on the pitch, and an even greater entertainer off it. Absolutely brilliant. One of the great guys. And the tales around his career are just unbelievable. And most of them we can't tell. Now, we're going to talk while we're on the FA Cup about Tottenham, because Martin went to Tottenham, Aston Villa. But as Mickey had time with Chelsea, we're going to talk now. Martin's going to talk, because this is Martin Tyler's letter from the gantry.
Letter from the gantry.
Thanks as always, Neil. Football is awash with good people, and at the top end of the range is the father of the new manager of Chelsea. He had a good playing career himself, mostly with London clubs, performing in the top flight with Queen's Park Rangers and West Ham, and after representing England under-21s, reached full international level with Sierra Leone. He then spent more than a decade in coaching and management. Now he's a highly respected educator within the game with a gift for speaking eloquently on diversity, inclusivity, and mentoring. Those admirable skills recognized by the award of the MBE in 2019. I'm talking about Leroy Rosenior. Yes, Rosenior is the way the family pronounces the surname. And I have to admit that back when Leroy was playing, he told me so. As a young-ish commentator, back then I can't recall having the opportunity to put that information to air, but my elders in the profession at the time had already plumped for the now familiar, totally familiar, Rosenior. By the time son Liam started to make his mark as a young player, the commentary template had been set. There was never any suggestion of change. But I tell you this for two reasons. First and foremost, because Leroy's wishes should be heard. Secondly, because he did try on Liam's appointment at Stamford Bridge to set the record straight through emails and voice notes. This was on the eve of the recent local derby at Fulham, a club both father and son have played for, incidentally. Liam was to be watching on at Craven Cottage rather than taking the game for Chelsea. But he was, in many ways, the story for the media and would certainly be in shot regularly during the coverage. And of course, he would have to be named. I was one of a cluster of commentators who were assigned to that fixture, including the Sky pairing of Bill Leslie and Alan Smith, with their number one touchline reporter, Patrick Davison, facing the same dilemma. Sam Matterface and Scott Minto were on radio duty for Talk Sport. Simon Brotherton was handling matters for the Match of the Day highlights that evening. We'd all been briefed and were indeed practicing our Roseniors in the press room a couple of hours before kickoff. Then a penny dropped. What was Liam's view on this matter after over 20 years in football as Rosenior? Enter Lee Parker, Chelsea FC's own excellent reporter, who not only had done a piece with Liam for the Chelsea website the day before, but had raised the very issue of pronunciation. The new Blues boss acknowledged his dad's point. Of course he would, but felt that as he'd always been called Rosenior, he was happy for the club to stay with that. What now had become an official Chelsea line was then passed on to all of the commentators and then in turn to our bosses to ask whether we could follow suit. In my case, checks had to be made. And finally, I was told that the ultimate permission to proceed as normal had come from Leroy himself. Now, the Premier League Productions general policy is a good one. When new players arrive, particularly from overseas, they're recorded saying their name. My recent FA Cup assignment had a case in point at Tottenham. Their talented young Swedish midfield player is now in his second season at Spurs and is referred to as Bergvall by broadcasters for British TV. Anglicising in many cases is the norm, but the PLP's world feed to a much wider audience aims to stay true to the original. Lucas calls himself Bergvall, and so do I and all the PLP commentators. He missed the tie at home to Villa, but his absence on a long list of Tottenham casualties led to a couple of mentions, as Bergvall, of course. The G is often soft in Swedish. Remember the late Sven-Göran Eriksson. And I know many of you will point to Bruno at Manchester United, Bruno Fernandes in his own neighbourhood, but he was here long before correct pronunciation became such an issue. And so, of course, was Liam Rosenior. There is another option for Leroy and Liam, that of the former England defender, Phil Jagielka, universally known in the game as Jagielka. Phil came up with a simple solution. He told his family, who used the correct Polish pronunciation, that Jagielka is his stage name. And there aren't many bigger stages than being manager of Chelsea.
Yeah.
I think I get asked a lot about pronunciations, and that those who want to be commentators who ask why one commentator says this or the other can never be constant, really. We try, but it never can be. So that's the latest one, hot from the Craven Cottage press room.
I'm just delighted that Liam Rosenior has come in and talked about winning and not talked about projects. I love him already. Yeah. And that's
well, we wish him well.
A step in the right direction.
We wish Leroy well in all that he does as well.
I'm sure Mickey Thomas never heard of a project while he was playing football. So yeah. Martin Tyler's letters from the gantry are available to read on Substack.com, and where we go under the same "The Joy of Football" title. And don't forget, of course, that if you like what you're watching, hearing, please subscribe, get more involved, and to follow us on the Patreon as well. Okay, let's get back to this weekend's FA Cup, because after you commentated on Fulham Chelsea, you turned up at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for Tottenham versus Aston Villa, and everything's going wrong for Tottenham. More so, despite them winning the Europa League last season against Manchester United in the final, more so than it is for United.
Well, I would remind everybody, and I think the Tottenham fans, the realistic ones, do know this. They know it, obviously, but they need to keep it in their minds that the Spurs finished 17th in the league last season. So what was going to change? Obviously, been some new players come in. Why was that instantly going to lead to it was the European triumph was excellent. No disguising that, done against the odds of very poor league form. And great credit to Ange Postecoglou and his coaching staff for getting there and getting that result. So what are realistic expectations? Now, obviously, Thomas Frank came in with a very high reputation from his time at Brentford, deservedly so. But they've been hit with the injuries at the moment. I mean, Kulusevski and Maddison haven't played all season. Solanke finally appeared in the game against Villa for the last 10 minutes, but he was the last player to be put on because they didn't want to give him 25 minutes, which I think Dane Scarlett was given. Mortam Kolumwani came on in the first half. Richarlison got injured in the game, the hamstring. He'll be out for a few weeks as well, it seems. Bentancur, now I was hearing coming to the podcast today, is a 3-month absence. His injury was at Bournemouth the week and the midweek before. Berival didn't play because he was struggling. Dougie got to the bench but didn't get on, so I don't know how fit he hasn't played since early December. So there are a lot of extenuating circumstances, I think. And what isn't helping is this kind of reaction now between players and fans, and Christian Romero posting on social media that others at the club should be standing up to be counted, and it's not all about the players and everything. And it ended the game against Villa. I mean, Villa did deserve to win, but only just. I mean, Spurs had a right go. Sometimes when you're 2-0 down, the only thing that's left in a cup tie is to have a right go, and they did. And João Palhinha, who looked like somebody had rode, a moustache and a little goatee beard, looked like somebody had rode into town to help the sheriff. And then that was a good thing. And then 1 or 2 tackles, which might have been a bad thing. And then it ended ugly at the end of the match. But that kind of passion has got to be applied maybe more consistently over the performances on the field. So now they're still in the Champions League, and actually they have done quite well in the Champions League. That seems to have been forgotten in all this. 14th in the league as we speak. It'll test the patience. It doesn't help Thomas Frank that Maresca and Amorim have gone, but they've had longer time there, and people must recognise that. I think it would be absolute folly to Tottenham to change the manager. They need to give him a chance when everybody's back fit again, and maybe ask the question: why are we having all? We've had this before with clubs. Why are we getting all these different injuries? Is it the way they used to say about the centre backs are always running upfield and running back again and getting damaged on the sprint, coming back? They're not the only club where that sort of thing happens. So maybe there'll be some analysis of that. But yeah, football is very democratic. You usually get what you deserve, and at the moment, that's what Villa just deserved to win. Emery's got the measure of Tottenham, and the league table doesn't lie. So
this is my charge against Tottenham.
You don't like them because you're a Chelsea fan.
No, I don't
first.
mind Tottenham. I've always said that. It's Leeds I don't. My generation don't like Leeds. And Crystal Palace lost to Macclesfield, the great upset, as we've
I agree. This what people have said, that it's the greatest upset in FA Cup history.
Palace's achievement last season was put into context time and time again. That for the previous 2 years, 2 summers, they'd lost their 2 best players, Wilfried Zaha and then Michael Olise. Now they've lost Eberechi Eze as well, their best player. So for 3 consecutive summers, they've lost their best player, and now they've lost their way to a certain extent.
Well, they haven't got enough players now. Yeah. Their best team is still a very good team, and with great respect to Macclesfield, who have done amazingly. there are caveats you can put on that, all sorts of things, artificial pitch and things like that, that take nothing away from what Max. And John Rooney stepping out of the shadows of Wayne. It's a wonderful story. John played against, I was the assistant manager working for nearly 4 years, and he played against us a few times for Barrow, who we did beat, and for Stockport, who we drew and lost to, and he scored at Woking a very good goal, and he was a very good player. He's only just stopped playing. So what he has done, but he's a realist, and he's grown up in football. And he's got together almost a gang of the like-minded people who are around non-league and just out of. I think John played about 40 or 50 League Two games. He could have played more, but that's the sort of world he was operating. Probably watching Wayne play a lot as well. So take nothing away from it, but Palace are right. If you were going to play Palace with half a chance, with a 5% chance, probably that was what they given. It was that day.
But I would go back to Tottenham, and I would say in the last 3 summers, they have lost Harry Kane, Son Heung-min, and this last summer, not to transfer, but to injury, as you said, James Maddison.
And Kulusevski, who's a very, very good player.
And I would argue that they've not replaced Kane, they've not replaced Son, and they can't replace those two because...
Well, Solanke was bought to replace Kane, and he's not played either. So,
but he's not in the same. He's not in the same league. I love Dom. I've known him since he was 15.
You have,
Chelsea.
Yeah.
But he's not in the same league as. No, hardly anybody's in the same league as Harry Kane, and hardly anybody's in the same league as Prime Son. They were 2 of the best Premier League players.
Son by where Son's gone to play, tells you that he was maybe slightly on the decline. So maybe if he'd stayed, we'd be still having the same conversation. But what a wonderful player he was. A Premier League legend, absolutely no question.
But what I'm saying is Tottenham have lost their stars and they failed to replace them with real stars. Richarlison obviously came when Harry went. And he's a good player. He's a World Cup Brazil centre-forward. He's a good player. But he's not a great player.
It's interesting that Brennan Johnson came and then has gone again already.
To Crystal Palace.
Yeah, because we desperately need a player. But what we are going to see, Neil, is a transfer window. We are seeing it. We're in the transfer window now, where the new ownership, the new men and ladies who hold the purse strings at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, they now have a chance to show: is it going to change after Daniel Levy? Daniel Levy, that stadium still is a wonderful monument to Daniel Levy's influence at the club, and I know Tottenham fans are all proud of it, but they would say, but if what happened, maybe we enjoy playing still at the old ground and having spent more money on players and maybe have more success, but who knows? I think this stadium brings more revenue, and with Tottenham get a great team together, which I'm sure they're capable of doing, then it will be a wonderful setting. It will rival anything in the Premier League and anything pretty much in the world. So let's give them this, what we got now, 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks before the window closes, and see whether they can. It's a difficult window to do it in, more likely to be done in the summer, but there might be some indication of their intention to have a bit more of a punt.
I talked about DNA to Mickey and the idea of Manchester United wingers. DNA for Tottenham is not dissimilar, not necessarily wingers, but entertainers, great attacking midfielders, whether it's going back to the 1960s and John White, or the 70s and 80s and Glenn Hoddle and Ozzy
It's just to cut across.
Paul Gascoigne, 80s, 90s.
It's lovely to see the old players there, out of respect for Martin Chivers and Terry Yorath before the game, including Cliff Jones from the double.
Who must be knocking 90.
Yeah, I guess so. And Glenn.
I bet he's still running, isn't he, Cliff Jones? Wonderful. So
they do that very well, Tottenham. I was their last game at White Hart Lane. I was privileged to commentate on the closing ceremony after the Sky broadcast had finished of the match, and I think brought out nearly 50 ex-players. It was lovely. That moment where the rainbow started, and where it was, and it was finishing where the site was only a couple of 100 yards away. But it was theatre, lovely theatre, and that is Tottenham theatre, isn't it? Really.
Yeah. And to be fair, Maddison is that.
Yeah.
Sometimes he plays like an extra, and sometimes he plays like the lead actor. And when he plays like the lead actor, he is absolutely
He's a showstopper.
mesmeric.
Yeah.
And I think they've missed him.
Undoubtedly.
So
So that's I think that is a bit. I think to be fair, they had a real go. 2-0. Oliver scored to make it 2-1 pretty early in the second half, and it looked as though that a great result might be in the offing. But Aston Villa are they're very, very clever in their selection. They're very good players to bring on. They lost Camera very early in the game, and so they had Yuri Tielemans, who's got the winner in a cup final, to come on and play in that.
Don't rub it in. Who was that against? Can I just say, with the mention of Yuri Tielemans, I'm sure most people have seen it, but if you haven't seen it, Ezra Konsa, pass forward, Yuri Tielemans, pass forward, Donald Mayen, pass forward, Marlon, pass forward, Emi Buendia, smack it in the top corner. That is how football should be.
Yes, but that is not how you should defend against it. And there are two sides to that particular story that we explored. I did the game with Stuart Robson, who's an excellent analyst to have alongside. So, but the cup delivered again, and it's however people put it into different contexts these days, it's still amazing. I was travelling to my game when the word came through that Macclesfield had taken the lead, I just wonder what Palace's preparation was. I don't know the answer to this, but I think I heard Chris Richard, who played in the game, say beforehand that they'd been training on plastic pitches. Arsenal did it a different way. They played Sutton a few years ago. It was as far as the 5th round. It was when Sutton had a plastic pitch, which they don't have now, although they're back in non-league football, haven't been in the league. And Arsenal didn't train on it. They didn't train on anything. They just went and played the game. So they weren't risking the legs being affected by 3 or 4 sessions on a surface they would never normally use. They went and played the game. They won the game, went home and to the next round. Now, I don't know if Palace had several sessions on artificial surface, that might have helped Macclesfield a little bit. But the truth is, Macclesfield helped themselves, and nothing, I don't want to say anything that actually decries that victory for someone who works in non-league. And we're speaking on a Monday, and on the Tuesday, next football match I will be going to see is Woking v Macclesfield in the FA Trophy. I'm hoping that Macclesfield have been celebrating and are still celebrating now.
You told a little porky there.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, it's not the next game you're going to see. I want everyone to know where Martin is going this evening.
Well, I hope it's still on. There's the Woking Academy game this evening. We have the under-17s, under-18s and under-19s. This is an under-17 game. But it's on a grass pitch, which I certainly approve of. But that risks, of course, the game being called off. At the moment, through your skylight, there is rain on it. So
and who you playing?
Hopefully, we are. I'm not sure actually. No, I'm not sure who we're playing. I concentrate on our team. we don't worry about the opposition academies. We're trying to develop players. And this is very selfish to mention it, but one of our academy boys, Tom Dreyer, made his National League debut on Saturday. Came on for the last 10 minutes in a very good win against Hartlepool. So very proud of Tom, and he's a beacon. And we'll be saying to the players in the dressing room tonight, and whenever the academy plays, look what can be achieved if you put your mind to it. So whether he goes on, it's up to him. But thanks to Neil Ardley for giving him those 10 minutes. And he got involved in a few things. He's an attacking player, and that was special. Amidst all the FA Cup, the word from the Laithwaite Community Stadium that Tom Dreyer got on was the highlight of my weekend.
And no doubt on Tuesday evening, Neil Ardley will be saying, Macclesfield, you can dream.
Well, we'll see. I mean, don't underestimate the power of a Rooney. And, I've seen John the player, and he was good. So, and obviously as a manager, he's made an outstanding start and put Wayne in the shadows for once. I mean, it was lovely to see Wayne there and absolutely moved by what his kid brother had done. So Great weekend for the Roonies.
Well, for a couple of old fogies, I think it's worth saying just what a delight it has been to be able to come in and do a podcast and talk about the FA Cup, because it was riveting, and all the issues out of it, which obviously are Premier League issues, were in Wrexham's case rising from the ashes issues. Talk about these things out of the FA Cup, because it was such a wonderful weekend.
It was, and the joy of football exists in all the competitions, including the under-17 league, the Woking Academy. And it's this. We grew up, Neil, with this third round day. Well, now it's a weekend. It was a day then, Saturday, and being really looking forward to, or even of the big Christmas fixtures, it led to the third round of the FA Cup. And of course, with all the competition it has with other tournaments, it has suffered a little bit, and teams don't always put their strongest team out, which is their choice. But it was really great, and long live the FA Cup, and long live the joy of football.
And thanks to Mickey Thomas again.
Absolutely.
Long live Mickey Thomas from Martin and me.
Yeah, bye.
Right. That's it then. And I'll be like this for a few weeks, actually. They've said it could be up to 12 weeks before.
For those of you who are watching, you would say, as I do, I like the look.
Yeah.
For those listening, well, you'll have to
Start
find
watching.
a way to find that and start watching.
Please don't forget, subscribe and get more involved. Go to the Patreon and get more involved, and read us on substack.com, where we are also The Joy of Football. And Martin's letters are beautifully presented, and my angry musings are horribly presented.
My letters are beautifully presented by Neil, I hasten to add, to give full credit where it is due.
Yes, and mine are horribly presented by me. There you go. See you next week.
Thanks for being with us. We really appreciate it, I promise you.